When you ask me what my favorite book of all time is, there's a couple books that immediately come to mind. And in today's video, we are going to be reading some of those books to see if they are still my all-time favorite books. Now, I am reading these books in no particular order, but we are going to start off with Emily Henry's Happy Place. I haven't read this since it originally came out. I think that was in 2022, maybe? No, this came out in 2023. Why does it feel like this book came out forever ago? Anyway, I read this book when it immediately came out 2 years ago. So it is time for a reread. The main thing I remember from this book the first time I read it was that I resonated a lot with the main character, so I'm wondering if I still resonate a lot with her because I feel like the past 2 years have been very big changes for me. I graduated college, I moved back home, I moved to my own apartment, I actually started my second post-grad job. Like, a lot of things have changed in the past 2 years. So I'm very excited to see my thoughts on this book and just all of the rest of the books in general. I just made it to page 40, so I'm not super far into this book yet, but if you don't know anything about this book, because this video is fully spoiler free. Basically, we are following Win and Harriet. It is a second chance romance, and every year they go to their friend's beach house in Maine. And when they get there, they find out some things, and then Win and Harriet have also been broken up for a while, and they haven't told their friends yet. So now they basically have to pretend that they've never broken up because they don't really want to damage this trip and ruin like the dynamic, because obviously they are all friends. And that's basically the point I'm at now, and I will probably say this with every single book, but I forgot how much I love this book. I do remember it really hitting home the first time I read it, and so far it does feel like a warm hug. It feels like I'm coming home after being away for a really long time. I'm trying to make myself slow down and soak in every word. Speaking of, I'm also trying to savor the last warm days of summer, which is why I decided to read this book first, because it does have some of those summery vibes. And I'm also reading this book outside, which just makes the vibe immaculate. I also thought about getting a lobster roll and reading it outside because of like the whole Maine thing, and they're also there for this lobster festival, but I'm not sure I'm in the mood for a lobster roll. I feel like I would rather go get sushi and eat that outside. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might not even do either, because I honestly have chicken tenders and french fries that are really calling my name right now, but at the same time, sushi and hummus is also calling my name. So we're gonna have to figure out what we're doing, but either way, I'm gonna eat outside and read my book for dinner. But anyway, I'm going to get back to reading. Made it to chapter 19, which is a little over halfway through this book, and I'm starting to get to the point where I'm a little bit worried that doing this video is going to ruin books for me, just because I forgot how good this book is. This is by far my favorite book of hers, but there is this one scene in this book that kind of just stresses me out, and I was actually thinking about the scene while I was reading the book, and then it happens, and I was like, oh, I forgot that it happens this early on in the book, but I'm kind of glad it did, because I didn't want to like keep just waiting for that scene to happen, because it was one of the things I remembered most about the book for some weird reason. Hi, baby. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure the first time I read this book, I hadn't yet read Beach Read, and there's a tiny little crossover in this book between Beach Read. It's like so small. It's like a paragraph long, so it's really not that big of a deal at all, but when I spotted it this time, I was like, oh, that is so cute. And I love when authors do that. Let's chat, because at this point, I have already finished Happy Place, and I started my next book, but I have a couple notes on Happy Place before we talk about my next book. There's an argument that happens towards the end of this book that I just really do not remember happening at all, and I really did not enjoy, and maybe that's why I didn't remember it. Maybe my brain just purposely pushed that memory to the back, you know. I purposely did not want to remember something I didn't like about this book. I still did very much enjoy this. It is definitely still a 5-star read for me, although I do kind of feel like I liked this book more the first time I read it, which kind of really sucks, because I was hoping I would like it more, but it still just hits home for me. I love Win and Harriet, and it is definitely still my favorite Emily Henry book. Don't get it twisted, I still really like this book. Now I started my next book, which is The 7-Year Slip. This was my favorite book of 2023. My favorite book last year was The Nightingale, and I just love this book so much. If you don't know anything about this book, basically you have our main character Clementine, and she's going through a lot because her aunt just recently passed away, and her aunt were very close. And so her aunt gives Clementine her apartment. And when Clementine was a kid, her aunt would always say like, yeah, my apartment is magical. And Clementine just kind of didn't really think anything of it. She kind of thought like her aunt was just, you know, she's just being her aunt and telling her stories because she's a kid, right? Until one day she walks into the apartment and it is 7 years in the past. So it is a time traveling apartment. I love this book so much. And every time I pick up this book, I'm always like, oh, I should read more books with like the time travel aspect in them. And I never do. So if you have any books that you recommend with the time travel aspect in them, let me know, because I kind of want to explore that a little bit more. But so far, I'm loving this book so much. Like, I already knew I loved this book so much, but I think I might love it even more than I did before, because I feel like I'm like picking out the little eggshells, is that the right word? The little hints that she puts along the way. I don't think eggshells is the right word. I know, I don't know what I'm thinking. What word am I trying to find? Easter eggs, that's the word. Wait, is it? I don't know. Anyway, within my reread, I am picking up all the little hints that she's putting in this book, because obviously now I know like how it ends, and I'm loving it so much that I actually started annotating this book, which I had a girl. Anyway, I was trying to say I had a feeling that I was going to annotate this book, but I'm trying not to write in it too much, because I do kind of want at least like my boyfriend to read this book and maybe other people that might want to borrow my copy, so I don't want to give anything away with my annotations. So I haven't been underlining a ton, but I have been underlining, and I just love them so much. And so I'm at the point where I definitely feel like this book could be one of those books where upon the reread I love it even more. So fingers crossed, I'm gonna go sit and read for a while, because I am just having a grand old time. I made it to chapter 28, so I'm about 2/3 of the way through this book, and I am having the best time ever. I think that this is one of the best reading experiences I have had while rereading a book, because normally I don't love to reread books because I'm like, okay, I already know what's gonna happen. I'm just not someone that super loves to do rereads, but recently I've been doing more rereads than I used to, and I'm actually having so much fun. This reread in particular though, I feel like it's the best reread I've ever had ever, and maybe that's just because I have such strong feelings towards this book. Like, I love this book so much. I love the characters in this book, and so getting to experience that and them in their world all over again is just bringing me so much joy. And I'm actually somewhat annotating a little bit. I don't know if I said that already, but I'm underlining just like random little bits. Oh, I did say that actually. I just remembered. But it has been so much fun, and I almost feel like I like this book even more now that I've done my reread. I want everyone to read it. I want to scream this book from the rooftops. I love it so much. I also realized this book takes place in the summer. I think we're about to transition to fall though, but in my head this book has always been a fall book, but really it takes place in New York City summer. But I actually kind of feel like it is the perfect book for like this season. Like, we're starting to transition into fall right now, so I feel like this would be the perfect book for like August, late August, early September. Honestly, it's a perfect book for any time. But if you're someone like me and you just like to read seasonally, I feel like that would be the perfect time to read this book. So right now, just go pick it up. Anyways, I am just gonna go sit down and finish this book because I'm obsessed with it, and we will chat when I pick my next read. I finished The 7-Year Slip last night, and this reread 100% reminded me how much I love this book, and the last couple of chapters definitely made me cry, even though I knew what was going to happen. So that kind of shocked me. I want everyone to read this book and then tell me how much you love it. And if you don't love it, I don't want to know, because this book is just perfect to me. But before you read this, you should probably check the trigger warnings. I also started the last book of this video, which is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I read this book, I think in 2022. Pretty sure it was in 2022. Whatever year it came out is the year that I read this book. Yep, August 2022. I remember reading it as soon as it came out because I was just so excited about it. But I went back and forth on what book I wanted to reread in this video. At first, I was thinking I was going to read The Book Thief because that is like my all-time favorite book. Like, I read that book pretty young, and so I have a very distinct memory of loving that book when I was younger. So that's like one of those like nostalgic reads for me, but I ended up going with this one because I actually kind of want to listen to parts of it. I also used to read a lot of memoirs, and I'm Glad My Mom Died is one of my favorite memoirs of all time. I still read a good amount of memoirs. I think I've read 2 or 3 this year. I say a good amount. That's not a ton, but as someone that doesn't read nonfiction, memoirs are my nonfiction subcategory of choice, if that makes sense. But I've already made it to chapter 30, which is on page 105. And wow, this is a tough read. Definitely need to check the trigger warnings on this one as well. I remember when I first read this book, I was sitting on my couch in my college apartment, and I read it in like 2 days because I was just sitting on the couch like all day reading this book because I just fell in love with it, and I was so encapsulated. Is that the right word? Engulfed? I don't know. I was just so into the story that I didn't want to put it down. But like I said before, I at least want to listen to a little bit of this book because Jennette McCurdy actually narrates the audiobook for this, and I love when memoirs do that. That's pretty common for memoirs to do that in their audiobook. The author will actually like narrate it. So I'm very excited to hear her story literally from her. And last time I didn't listen to the audiobook at all. So I'm excited to experience this book in a new way. But I 100% commend her for writing this book because I cannot imagine how much healing she must have gone through to not only write this book, but then to also go and narrate it. And I also just love the way that she writes, and I love the way she structures not only the book as a whole, but also the individual chapters. It makes me want her to write more books because she is so good, and I hope if she does come out with more books, she doesn't publish under like a pen name. Is that what it's called? I don't know, but I hope she uses her own name is basically what I'm saying, because her writing is so good, so obviously I'm gonna want to pick it up. I just made it to chapter 63, and I find it so interesting that she talks about Dan Snyder in this book, and she only ever refers to him as the creator, and I'm wondering if that's for legal reasons or if that was literally just for style purposes. But I do actually kind of like that she does that. It kind of gives, I guess, almost an ominous tone to him, and it kind of like takes some of his identity away from him. Like, I feel like that is one of the biggest things that you can do to like insult someone, is to like get their name wrong, or like it just like takes away part of their identity, basically is what I'm trying to wait, did I already say that? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I feel like you guys understand. I'm just curious though if it was for legal purposes or if she did that to add like a certain style to her writing. I don't know. Also, I knew / remembered from my first reread of this book that she was supposed to get her own show, which later turned into a spin-off with Sam and Kat, but I did not remember the premise of her show. Basically, her show was supposed to be about Sam, her character from iCarly, becoming a school counselor, and if you've seen iCarly, you know that Sam's like very out of the box. She doesn't behave a lot, so I would have loved to see that character development, and that would have been a show I would have loved probably to this day, and honestly, I still do love iCarly to this day, so kind of sucks that we never got that show. It's also interesting to me the way that her brain works, in the sense that she is writing this now, obviously, or I guess in 2022, but she's writing this now, but her feelings are in the present tense. Like, instead of saying, I idolized my mom, when she would talk about like her younger self, she would say, I idolized my mom. That was just like an example. That style, I love that. So it's interesting to me that she does that because obviously as she's changed, gotten older, her feelings have changed. And like now that she's older, she knows that these things that she went through, particularly with her mom and with the creator, and she knows that it was not okay how she was treated. Okay, that is enough ranting for now. I feel like I just talked about this book for a while, but if you are an iCarly fan or memoir fan or even just a Jennette McCurdy fan, you definitely need to pick up this book. It is so good. I have officially finished rereading 3 of my favorite books of all time. We'll start by getting my final thoughts on I'm Glad My Mom Died because I do have a couple thoughts that I want to share about this book. First off, there's a scene towards the end of the book where she says something about like being 22 years old, and I literally, my jaw I was shocked because I just thought she was so much older at that point, because she's obviously like giving her life story in chronological events, and at one point she kind of stops mentioning her name for a while, and so I figured she had just been a lot older, and so I was shocked to hear that she was only 22 because it felt like she had gone through so much for being so young. I also talked about this earlier and how I knew it was going to be a different experience listening to parts of this book rather than just sitting and reading it, because like I said, she narrates the audiobook, but hearing her get emotional while recording some of this audiobook really, like, it really hit me hard. Like, I literally felt it in my chest how just sad and gut-wrenching this all was. And I know I don't know Jennette McCurdy personally, but I'm just so proud of her for everything that she was able to overcome and able to do, even with all of these obstacles and things going on in her life. And hearing that she was going through all of this behind the scenes, just, it will never fail to make me feel sad, I guess, for lack of better words. But it is such an amazing book and I highly recommend it. I just also highly recommend checking the trigger warnings on this one because it is very heavy. And then of course I also reread The 7-Year Slip, which I think if you were forcing me to pick my favorite book of all time, you were like, Morgan, you either have to pick your favorite book of all time or never read again, I think I would tell you it was this book. I think I would. Now, don't hold me to that, but I think I would because it is just so good. This is such an amazing book. If you like magical realism, romance, if you like to read, highly recommend this book. And then I also read Happy Place, which I do also really love this book, but I do not love it as much as I love The 7-Year Slip, okay? I hate to say it, but I do love this book. I love Win and Harriet, and I love all of their friends. The found family in this book is unlike any other romance book that I've ever experienced. That kind of sounds dramatic, but I love this book, so I'm gonna be a little bit dramatic. But that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!